Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. How many of you have trees in your landscape? How many of you have trees? Awesome. Okay, that's tremendous. So, so anyway, my name is Richard Flowers. Yes, that is my last name, Flowers. Flowers, trees, watering. What else can what else can you say? So anyway, I had the honor and privilege of being asked by Ventura Water to do a talk on valuable tips on how to properly water landscape trees. Now, everybody has landscape trees. Now, before we talk about watering, we have to discuss why you need to water. Does anybody know the benefits of trees? What is the benefits of trees? Well, yeah, trees provide shade, but also what they do is they shade your yard, but also as they become larger, what they do is they can actually you can have less energy consumption from air conditioners. They have historical value. Some are heritage trees. Some trees also can produce fruit. They filter the air, from all the leaves. They actually can reduce stress. They make a neighborhood more homey. So this is why you need to water them, to preserve those living treasures. Trees are survivors, and they want to survive. But I want to provide to you some timely tips and how to properly water those trees. We're going to go on to how to properly water a new tree. I'm going to take my favorite tree here. This is a very rare tree. It has a distinctive blue trunk, and it's in flower right now. This is called the broom tree. I want to plant it. Like that. It's planted. Now, bear in mind, this is just for demonstration purposes. It's already planted. But I want to show you how to make a watering basin around a tree, or a watering well, because that is where you water. Basically, this is the trunk. And what you want to do, this is just a simulation, but in the ground it's a little bit different. This is just a miniaturized. Water is not being applied to the trunk. When you want to water over here on a new tree and fill that up slowly. Some tips on how to water a new tree. You water basically when the tree needs it, depending on conditions. There's many kinds of conditions I will explain to you as we go along in this discussion. Take this tree right here. This is a 15-gallon. This is a beautiful tree. It's very popular. This is called Arbutus Anito Marina strawberry tree. Right now, if you plant this tree in the landscape, it is not drought tolerant, because you have to baby it. You need to water right here, usually at 1 or 2 years before it is established, before it brings out roots out further in the soil. Usually, you need to water those trees usually once a week, usually about 100 gallons. But depending on conditions. One condition, test the soil. When the tree needs water, go down. You can go down 6 to 8 inches. You can use a shovel, if you prefer, and dig up your whole yard. Or you can use a bamboo stake. Actually, I learned this method with a bamboo stake. I always use a screwdriver. I like screwdriver better, but from a good colleague of mine who actually works here part-time. His name is Patrick. If he's here, but stick this down about 6 to 8 inches. Right now, this soil right here is moist. You see a little bit of soil sticking on there. Right now, this broom tree, does not need water. I encourage people to physically go out there in the garden and use that probing method to see if your trees need water. Because that is so important. You just don't look at the soil. Oh, it's dry. Now, this looks dry right now. Does that look kind of dry to you? Well, what's underneath? there's a whole world of soil organisms underneath. And it's important to know what is down there. So usually a moist soil would be kind of cool and kind of stick to your probe. But a dry soil would be hard and compact and very difficult to bring this probe into the soil. That's when you need the water. And also, it is very important to know, always, when you're planting a new tree, to use mulch. This zero mulch here, this is a homogeneous mix of large products, small products, and medium size. Having a layer of mulch, a 3-inch layer of mulch can reduce watering because 30% less evaporation. If you have evaporation, that's wasted water. So this is not unraveled. It's a very unattractive tree, but it's very slow growing. I'm going to rip this out. I'm going to show you this diagram here. This is a tree in a lawn. How many of you have trees in a lawn? How many of you have this kind of condition where you see roots all up on the surface? Well, actually, that could be avoided because roots follow water. When you water deep, you want the roots to go down deep into the soil, top 1 to 2 feet of soil minimum. This tree is a weaker tree. This tree will always need water because the roots are shallow. You see this is also in a lawn area. You try mowing that lawn. It's very difficult, it's bumpy there. And also, if you're walking in the area, you can trip over that. It's a liability. This tree is most likely to get insects, diseases, and it's not happy, it won't thrive. You can have a tree in a lawn, but what I recommend is to water the tree separately from the lawn. I'll explain how you can do that. Do any of you know where you water a tree? Any of you out there, when you water a tree, where do you water? At the drip line. Where is the drip line? At the edge. Yeah, just like that diagram that I showed you. This, you can take a look at that. That is so important. That's the basis of this discussion. That's where you apply your mulch, that's where you apply your water, that's where you apply your fertilizer. The little feeder roots. The little feeder roots is what brings up water, what brings up nutrients, and what brings up all the necessary components that a tree needs to survive. But with a new tree, like this, the feeder roots are right here. It's not way out here yet, beyond the canopy. Like an established tree, a big tree. How many of you have big trees in your yard? How often do you water? How often do you water? Once a month? Twice a month? How do you know? How do you know you have to water twice a month? Okay. Okay, you could be told that. She was told by a nursery person to water twice a month as a guideline. Deep water. Remember, you always use this to see what is underneath that soil. Go out there. Actually, physically go out there. And a lot of times there's a disconnect with people. You could read and you could be told general guidelines about how and when to water. But that person does not go to your house. You know your landscape better than anybody else. It's a landscape, when you go out there, you're actually in that landscape and you're seeing what is happening. By different methods, like watering. I prefer hand watering. I live in Ojai, very hot, very dry, and I hand water everything. I have hoses everywhere. It takes me about 2 days. I have 1 acre. I like it. to me, it's relaxing. You're out there in nature, and you're connecting with the plants, and there's no disconnect. Hand watering, I know all my microclimates in the landscape. That also determines when you need to water. I know that I have certain areas in my landscape where hot air drains and sinks into one area. That area I know needs extra water. I have other areas in my landscape where it's always cooler. It's densely planted. There's mulch. Those areas take longer to dry. Those areas require less water. So I encourage you to go out in the landscape, look at long-range weather forecasts, and beat the heat before a heat wave comes. Deep water your plants. I will explain how to deep water as I go along in this discussion. But as you look at that diagram of a drip line, you apply your mulches, and that's where you apply your watering. Usually an established tree, they need about 100 gallons a month. Usually. Twice a month, once a month. A little more often in extreme heat conditions. I like using a soaker hose. A true story of mine, last year, I have a very established California native. It's called Valley Oak. I actually have one on an example here. This is a small 5-gallon Valley Oak. But this will get taller. Oh, excuse me, I got a friend that wants to come with me. This is a California native. This does lose all its leaves during the wintertime. When it loses its leaves during the wintertime, it does not need water. It's a quiet time. So that's part of the conditions when you need to water. Usually in the summer, trees require more water because it's hot, dry, in many places it's windy. But during the wintertime, when this loses its leaves, but this is a very picturesque tree. The branch on mine, the branches come out 30 feet, and it's about 40 feet high. I was looking in the middle, last year I was looking in the middle of July. I looked up at the canopy, and the foliage was getting a little bit light, wasn't so dark green, a little bit light, a little bit yellow, and dropping some leaves. So what I did is I got 2 100-foot soaker hoses. I went all the way around the drip line, and then I went around again. Starting from the drip line, coming inward, I went down around twice. I put it on at 6 o'clock. I turned it off at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I put it on at 8 o'clock in the morning. A month later, I looked up in the canopy, the same place where I was looking, outside New Grove. That tree needed deep water. It took all day. But the reason why I circled it around a couple times, because you're not just watering one place, you're watering all over. The way water moves in the soil, it moves down, does not move out. So you don't just want to, if this was a big tree, the canopy out here, you don't want to water one place, right here. What about over here? Over here, all needs water. Divide the tree into zones like a clock. 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Take the hose sprinkler or a hose, and go there and water 2 or 3 hours in each place. Slow deep watering, and then move to the next place. Slow deep watering, 2 or 3 hours, until when you go all the way around, that'll be about 100 gallons. And then take this, go down 6 to 8 inches. If it's dry, you may need to repeat your water. Yes, any questions? Yes. Well, it's best, I'm getting there. I'm discussing how to water, then I'll discuss when to water. I've already briefly touched about when you water, depending on those conditions that I mentioned before. But also when you water, it's best to water when it's cooler, more humidity, and less wind. In the morning is a fine time, but I actually prefer to water in the evening because it has that much time, all during the evening hours, the night, and the early morning to recover. It's cooler during that time. Sometimes you may have to water during the day, but it's not wise because there's high evaporation. You can get up to 40 to 50%. It's not windy. Who did that? Who did that? Well, speaking of trees falling over, you know that tree that I showed you in the lawn? Because it has shallow roots, it doesn't have anchorage, and it can fall over. It's more likely to fall over. That's why you need to water deep, and so you have better anchorage into the soil. Also, about when to water is, I said it in the morning or evening, and also depending on those conditions and depending on soil probing. I like being out there in the nursery and actually working in the soil, getting your hands dirty. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why I encourage everybody to go out there. If you're watering by way of a sprinkler, connect this to the sprinkler, turn the water on low, maybe a quarter or less turn on the spigot. Take a tuna can, or a cat food can, or any given can or container. Take a Sharpie and measure off 2 inches. However long it takes for a hose sprinkler to fill up 2 inches of water, that's how long you water. But usually it takes 2 to 3 hours. The reason why you want to water slow is if you water fast, what happens, the water water runs off and you're watering elsewhere. You want to water the tree. You don't want to water your neighbor's yard. You don't want to water the cement. Cement doesn't grow. And also, depending on your soil, does anybody know what kind of soil they have? What kind of soil do you have? Clay. Okay, now do you know, now clay is the type of soil where you have to water longer and it doesn't dry out as fast. Anybody have sand? Sandy soil is just the opposite. It dries out quicker and you have to water more shallowly. So that's one of the reasons of when you water, depending on soil and conditions. I get this question all the time. When do I water? It's a complex question, depending on conditions and when the plant needs it. I could have just come up here. Okay, I'll tell you how to water. You water properly as necessary, depending on conditions, and the plant needs it. There, I'm done. But there's a lot more to it. I mean, it's up to you. You have to determine when you need to water, depending on those conditions. A lot of people think, has it been 2 hours yet? Has it been 3 hours yet? Well, that's where you can take one of these hose timers. Just hook it up to your hose, program 2 hours, and then it'll automatically stop. Also, when you water, you can use this water wand or water breaker. This delivers water at a slow rate. This right here, this is a rain sensor. This turns off when there's rain. We will get rain. We will. It'll happen. Everybody has to be optimistic. This is really nothing new. I think it's becoming the new norm of being drier, but we will get rain. It will happen. I'm talking about mulch. Mulch also reduces weed growth. Weeds are competition. And when you have weeds growing, it robs nutrients and water from the tree. You don't want to water weeds, you want to water the tree. And also, as the mulch breaks down, what it does is it feeds the soil. It feeds the beneficial organisms in the soil, which in turn makes the plant stronger, and it makes better water uptake to the plant, and reduces compaction in the soil. When you have a compacted soil and hard and cracked, and it looks like something from Mars, water can't infiltrate and go down in that soil atmosphere very readily. But as this breaks down, it'll make watering more effective. And your trees won't fall over. Also, you can use organic soil conditioners. By incorporating organic soil, especially with a new tree, you're improving the soil, which improves water uptake, which improves the mineral and water uptake, and makes your plants happier, and then you will be happy. With an established tree, you can also mix in soil amendments too, but don't overtill. You don't want to ruin the structure of the soil. But mix it in where the drip line of the tree is, or right underneath the canopy. Does anybody know why they call it the drip line of the tree? Yeah, exactly. Think of it as like an umbrella. If this was larger and it's raining, you're standing under it, you will be drier. But if you go away from it, you will get wet. That's why they call it drip line of the tree, or the tree canopy, or the root zone, or the drip zone. It has many names. So going back, it's important to improve your soil. Also, use organic fertilizers. Like this. This provides nutrients to the soil to feed the naturally occurring ecosystem in the soil, which improves water uptake. See, it's a whole interconnected system of water, mulch, and soil, so the tree can bring it up and look better. A lot of people, what they want to do is they want to use like fast release fertilizers, like high in nitrogen. When you use high nitrogen fertilizers, you get nice, beautiful green growth. It doesn't last long. But also, because you're putting it on high nitrogen fertilizers, what that does is the plants actually demand more water. And the leaf tissue on the tree, on the leaves, is thinner and more susceptible to insect damage. You can use these, but you can use them for other applications. You can also use this right here. Is kind of in between organic and synthetic fertilizer, but this does contain humic acids and a soil penetrant, so water and nutrients can go better into the plant and be absorbed by the soil. Humic acids is like almost like a stimulant for the soil microorganisms, which makes the tree grow better, slow. Let's see, what else? If anybody has any questions, do, yes. Okay, afterwards, you can address any questions afterwards, yes. Okay, sure, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with palms and things like that. Palms
Richard,
have a coloroid root system,
Richard,
and they're real
Richard,
fibrous.
Can you make sure to repeat the question?
Okay, she's asking about watering of palms, queen palms and king palms. Palms, what they do is they have a different root structure, and they have a coloroid root system, they're very fibrous, and the roots don't really go way out. They stay closer to the trunk. And when you water those, you water in the same fashion, deep and slow. But you water closer to the trunk. Usually from the trunk outward, usually no more than 3 feet, but closer to the trunk. You know, how old is the palm? Yeah, 20 years. Okay, yeah. You want, in an old established palm, yeah, you water between no more than 3 feet from the trunk. And palms actually like water. They can withstand less water. They may not look as nice and as luxurious. These palms over here on the horizon, they probably tap into other water sources. If they do water, I don't know. But you know, when you water a palm, you want to water slow and deep, closer to the trunk, as opposed to, you know, a big established, you know, marina strawberry tree that can have a canopy of about 30 feet. You know, and you're watering way out here, way over here, as opposed to over there. Someone else had a question? Yes. Who was first?
So let's just say right now, I know that my water is being emitted more underneath the canopy and more than on the drip line. What's actually happening with that water? Is it being wasted?
Well, it's not being delivered. If it's where the drip line of the tree, that's where the crucial feeder roots are, and that's what brings up the water and nutrients. You may not be watering as effectively. He was asking me about, you know, he's watering underneath the canopy, but not where the roots, not outside the canopy. Do so as far as you can. You know, if you have other obstructions there, do so as far as you can. The more you go where the drip line of the tree is, where the canopy is, the better you are. But the thing is you want to kind of avoid having that condition. You know, shallow roots like that. This is probably a very poor tree. I don't know what kind of tree this is, but I found this. You know, it has some circling roots and girdling roots, and which is very poor. That tree is probably very weak. Yes. It's okra hose, yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so you are asking how often do you use a soaker hose? You don't want to do it every day. What kind of tree do you have? All kinds. Okay. This gentleman is asking about how often do you use a soaker hose? You do it as necessary, basically. Remember probe the soil to see if you need it. If it's hot, dry, windy, they require more frequent watering. A camphor tree, if it's an old camphor tree, they're fairly drought tolerant. Usually what you want to do once or twice a month, slow, deep watering, very slow. Circle it around, circle the soaker hose around more than once, you know, spiral it around. Spiral it around. Does that, yes. Hmm? Yeah, that's in response. Yeah. The question was, or the comment was, a couple months ago we had an extreme heat wave. And it caught everybody off guard. A lot of plants responded in a way where the plants looked bad. Where trees were dropping leaves, the trees wilting, and the leaves turned brown, and they looked sickly and dying. A lot of times, when trees drop leaves, it's protecting itself. Meaning, because there wasn't enough available water at the time, no leaves or dropping leaves, it's responding in a way to reduce water evaporation greatly because it has no leaves. But however, important to listen to long-range weather forecasts in deep water before that happens. Before. There will be more heat waves. There will be more heat waves. This has been a very strange year. We had a roller coaster of weather, unseasonable and everything else like that. And it's very important to be conscientious about how you water and when you water. No one can tell you, okay, you water on this day, this time, this long. There's so many variables. Does anybody remember the variables that I mentioned to you? Does anybody remember that? Okay, yeah, those are all very important. Also, before any heat wave occurs, and when it's still cool, you can use different products to help reduce the amount of water evaporates from the leaves. One's called wilt stop. This also is good for frost injury, windburn, sun scald, and salt damage, and drying out. But the key thing is to apply those anti-transpirants before a heat wave occurs. It's a preventative. Once the damage occurs, it will recover, but it'll take some time. Yes. With the person's going a little bit off topic, but I'll address it very quickly. Yeah, exactly. This right here you can use before any kind of heat event, or before a cold event is going to occur. You apply it before that time. And then it'll seal in moisture. This is a concentrate. You have to mix it with water, and you can apply it with a hose end sprayer or a compression Hudson sprayer, and then you apply it to the foliage. Yeah, before that happens. So we covered a tree and a lawn. I prefer when you water to hand water. I'm sure in one of your packets you see an example of someone actually watering. Just hand water, and hand water lightly. Also, when applying mulch, I have two pictures. One says yes, one says no. And you want to apply mulch not in this fashion, where it's like a donut. Think of that as like someone grabbing your neck. You're choking that hand. You don't want to do that. You want to apply mulch not up against, don't have it right up against the trunk, have it maybe 6 to 8 inches, and have it all the way around. And also, what you need to do is keep a nice fresh supply, because that mulch will break down. That mulch will break down. And then also, to expand on this picture, I prefer to go all the way around the drip line, the canopy, have all of that mulch. Because in time, if you're watering right here, right close to the tree, you may get that condition again. You do not want that condition. We're a tree and a lawn, where all those ugly roots are. Yes. Okay. this this lady is asking if you have a couple roots that are already showing and not in the lawn area and already having surface roots, they will go down. They just won't they won't continue to expand out. Yeah, they will go down, but they won't go completely down. You just won't get more. You know, provided that you are changing your watering habits. Yes. The lady's asking you you have a lot of leaves on the tree and it drops a lot of leaves. Well, that's a matter of choice. I prefer to leave the leaf litter. That's. Oh no, I prefer to leave the leaf litter down because that will break down. That'll be a natural mulch. That'll be a natural mulch and actually help feed the soil, which feeds the plant. Some people like to rake up the leaves, you know, and bag them up. Others like to compost. I compost, and I have 3 big compost bins up in my landscape, and I empty that probably once or twice a year. Right now it's very hot. It's cooking, and I spread that around. That, you know, that works excellent. You can actually get compost bins here. It's provided by the city. We don't carry a whole lot of them, but you could I think you can order them. You may want to check with one of the people inside the store, lawn and garden area. Yes. Yes. They should. The lady is asking, has 2 silver sheen pittosporum. Those are very popular plants. And when it's losing its leaves or after the heat, it doesn't look so happy.
Right, and the leaves are like dry and crispy.
If the leaves are dry and crispy. That happens a lot. If the branches still have suppleness and they're alive and they're not cracked and dead and there's no dying areas, it may come back. Silver sheen can become a tree. It's more of a large shrub, and I'm not there to see the plant. But however, you know, if the plant, if there's any sign of new growth or there's no dying back, and the branches are still alive and supple, if there's green cambium layer underneath the stem, when you do a scratch test, you know it's still alive. You know, it'll come back. You don't want to overcompensate by overwatering or underwatering. Young plants always need more attention to water. Do a screwdriver test, or the bamboo stake test. You know, go down about halfway. Going on to, you can have trees in containers. A lot of people don't have space for the ground to have trees in the ground, so they have in containers. Trees can be planted in containers. They're going to need a little bit more frequent watering because it's in a confined area. They're not going to get as large. They're going to grow slower. You can do the same test, bamboo stake or screwdriver test. Go down about halfway in the pot. If it comes out dry, there's a need to water. Trees won't grow as large. But it's important to know also that, oh, I'm falling apart, excuse me, sorry. It's important to know that trees in containers, depending on the variety of tree, some trees just will not perform very well in a container because they're meant to be in the ground because they just get too large. Or unless you want to keep them smaller and bonsai them, you know, that's acceptable too. I want to switch topics here. Yes. The customer's asking about it. They have a key lime or Mexican lime in a container, and is it fairly newly planted? Okay, newly planted just yesterday. It's still baby, and hard water, will that affect it? When you water, it's important to water deep enough to leach out the minerals, out of the deeper root zone. Always in a container. Plants are always going to demand a little bit of extra water. You may want don't have a saucer underneath the container, because that traps water. You want to put something underneath the containers, so you have air circulation and water flow, or air movement underneath. You can use pot feet. You can use bricks. You can use pavers, because you don't want it to sit in its own water. If you do decide to have a container with a saucer, take a sponge and soak out the water, because stagnant water can breed mosquitoes, and no one wants those annoying pests around. Switching subjects here, you're welcome. Switching subjects here, this is a little story about kind of drip irrigation. I don't claim myself to be an expert on drip irrigation. I'm not an irrigation technician, but I can give you some basic guidelines that you may want to consider using. My neighbor of mine, he lives up in Ohio, hot Ohio, and he goes away for about a month and a half to 2 months, and he calls me up on the telephone, and he wants me just to look over his landscape to see if things are okay. And he showed me his system. He says everything is getting watered and everything. So I go there. This is in the morning, and I look at his landscape, and I notice some plants are just wilting. They don't look good. They look sickly, dropping leaves. He has tall shrubs and a screen, and he has drippers, all on the same line. He has drippers, he has sprayers, he has emitters, and bubblers. And then some of the emitters are working, some of them are not working, some of them are broken, some of them have plants impeding the flow of water to the plant. And he has one emitter for each plant. So what I decided to do, since I was watching his landscape, I didn't want to be responsible for it wouldn't set very well with me having these poor looking plants. So I turned off his system and I hand watered. His plants looked fine. His plants looked fine after when I was done. When he got back, I explained to him of the situation, that you have all these mismatching heads. Some of the heads had no water coming out. Some of the heads had mineral deposits, that needs to be cleaned. Some of the heads were broken because he has a lot of rabbits around, and rabbits are smart. They want water, and they know where water is, so they chew irrigation line, and they chew off the heads and they break them. And you're having one emitter per each plant. And he's watering 15 minutes each time, 2 times a week. Hard to clay soil. He's getting this much water. Most of it's running off. I tell him, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, and your plants are looking bad. How about if what you do is you go out there on a routine basis and check to see if all the emitters are working correctly, prune away any impeding plant material that is blocking spray of water. Maybe you want to have like an adjustable bubbler like this. This can go on to your system. You can adjust the amount of flow. And try having, instead of one emitter per each one, for each plant. I explained to him how water flows through the soil. Do any of you remember how water flows through the soil? Yeah, it flows down. It does not flow out. So you're watering here. But what about over here? Over here is not getting water. You maybe have 2 or 3 of those. Multiple of them, so you can get uniform watering. And don't have it on 15 minutes. Instead of have it on for a couple hours, once a week. And then take a probe and probe the soil to see if it needs water. After his system was on and I probed that soil, water that much. For a 15-foot tall tree, that's not enough. So if I go to that landscape, I know his microclimates. I know exactly, I can put out that tree right there is going to be wilting. That's part of conditions about watering. When you need to water, there are just certain problem areas in the landscape where you need to become familiar with and determine when you need to water and how much. No soil is the same in any place. If you live on a hill, or if there's a slope, or if it's down on the bottom of a slope where water collects, or if it's on top of a slope where water runs off. So there's many conditions about when you need to water. I'm sure a lot of you do this too to help conserve water. You use shower and bath water, to water your plants. You can easily just take a 5-gallon bucket, fill that up, and then slowly water your plants that way. While on the subject of a bucket, another way you can water trees, take a bucket, drill some small holes in the bottom of it, fill that up with water, and place it next to the drip line of the tree. The water will come out slowly. That's 5 gallons. And then move it to the next area, another 5 gallons. Established tree, usually about 100 gallons of water. I would not use the bucket that you drill holes in to collect water, to collect bath water. Because you will not be happy. This product right here, this is a deep watering stake. There are 3 sizes available. This is a 36. There's 24 and there's 18 inches. You can actually take a sledgehammer, 3 to 5 pound sledgehammer, pound that into the soil all the way, as much as you can. Take off this. You can insert your 1/4-inch drip hose in here. This notch is where it holds it in, and then water will be delivered through these holes. For a new tree, you apply it closer to the trunk, but you want to make sure you don't apply one. You don't use one. You want to apply or insert more than one, like 2 or 3, because the way water moves in the soil, you want uniform watering. You can also put fertilizer in here too. You can also have your garden hose, and this is put down into the soil about so much. Fill this up, and then also fill up your watering basin very slow, and water will go in here and water your trees. Usually it's a faster method. It's another alternative method that can be used. There's also another product too that could be used. This is called soil moist. This absorbs and releases water at a time, at a slow rate. What it is, this is a kind of a gooey material, kind of a gel, and what it does, they're beads, and they expand. And this also increases soil aeration, and best to apply it before heat comes. This can be applied. This can be used for in the ground, or it could also be applied in containers. Usually, like for a 5-gallon pot or equivalent, you apply 2 tablespoons. In the ground, you may have to apply a little bit more. For new trees, I'm sure you've seen these up and down in various places. This is a tree watering bag. Basically, it's very easy. You take it out of the package, you unzip it, you put it around here, you fill it up with water, and then you zip it back up. And then what it'll do is this will water your trees over a 5 to 6 hour period. And usually you apply it maybe once or twice a week. This can also be reused. You just take it off and you can fold it up, and then you could use it for other young trees. Yes, a question. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This person has discovered another method of watering, with a plastic bag, inserted inside a 15-gallon pot, and then you can just poke holes in there, and basically, it slowly deeps water. There's other methods too that you could do. You're not set just by using those prescribed methods, but the key is to always water slow and deep. Yes, a question. Yes. Are citrus any different trees in their water requirements? If they're young, they're going to require regular water. If they're established, I would consider them to be moderate, not aridity. They won't take aridity. Moderate water needs. That's one of the #1 crops here in Ventura County. A lot of those, the orchards, they water them over an extended period of time with micro irrigation, very slowly. That's the key. I don't consider them like a plant that would lower amounts of supplemental water. Also, it's important, there's another concept, it's called hydrozoning. In one of your handouts there's a handout there called hydrozoning, which is basically what you're doing is you're grouping plants with like watering needs. You do not want to put, say, this Desert Museum Palo Verde. Once established, this requires very low water. This is a desert plant. You do not want to put this next to like ferns. Ferns require lots of water. This does not. You'll be underwatering some plants and overwatering another plant. Likewise, you don't want to put a tree that likes a lot of water, such as this birch. Birches like water. Naturally, they have shallow roots. And you're putting that in the same situation as this Desert Museum Palo Verde. They don't take the same water requirements. That's a poor selection. You want to put this next to, something else that requires, the same amount of water needs. A lot of people, they say that their birch were dying. Well, during the drought area, the drought time, many people are not watering their birches as frequently or as properly as they should. They became weak and stressed, and they got insects, and they got diseases, and they got other forms of trouble. They got very frustrated. This tree, on the other hand, this is called carrotwood. This can take a wide variety of soils. It can take low water, regular water. It's a good tree. It doesn't really flower. It's just basic evergreen. It does produce kind of a yellow seed, seed balls. But it's a good tree to have. It gets to be about 30, maybe 30, 40 feet high, not too fast, growing. Maybe about 20 feet wide, 30 feet wide. Let's see, did I cover everything? If anybody has any questions, yes? Yeah, peaches, pears, and apples. The person asking about peaches, pears, and apples about watering. When they lose their leaves, they require far less water. Actually, no water at all, because it's quiet. But during when they're actively growing, especially established ones, they can actually grow better when you water them deep, water them slow, and apples actually require a little bit more water than that of peaches. Peaches, once or twice a month. Also, it's important. A lot of people, because we had lack of rain, like last year, a lot of people continue to water their fruit trees during when they're supposed to be losing their leaves. And that messes up their cycle. It messes up their cycle of fruiting, of leafing out, and it just totally messes up. So it's important to understand you want to have them go dormant, so you can get proper fruit set. I don't want to go all into fruit trees. It's not really a fruit tree discussion. I don't know. Many of you may have attended the fruit tree talk that I had last year in January. Hopefully I'm going to have that again. Usually what you want to do is let the trees go dormant and understand their natural cycle of growth. If you have extended periods without rain, natural rain, you may want to deep water once or twice, but I would do no more. Yes? Yeah, avocados, they do transpire a lot of water. Deep water, make sure to always keep the leaf litter underneath the avocado. That's very important. That's part of their growth, and it provides necessary nutrients to the soil. And they do have shallow roots. There's an avocado tree, or there's an avocado grove next to where I live, commercial avocado grove. A lot of them are planted on slopes because it has better drainage and the cold air drains away. Because they don't like cold, freezing temperatures. But however, the way they're watered is by way of microspray. Usually, the microspray is on for many, many hours, real low, and they're not watering close to the trunk, and they're usually on placed 3 to 4 feet away from the trunk, right underneath the thick layer of mulch. I bet if I go back to that avocado grove and I dig underneath that mulch layer of leaves, it's nice and thick layer like that. It'll be nice and moist. They have it on for probably 5 or 6 hours. I noticed because I went on a hike up there above Ojai a couple years ago, and this was early in the morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning. And then when I came back, about 2 o'clock, they were still on. Slow, deep water. Yes, yes. Hmm. Exactly. I understand your frustration. You and I, we'll discuss one-on-one exactly on this. Uh, just stand by. We will find a solution and discover what is happening. She's saying about her magnolias having some issues with blooming and whatnot. Yeah. Yes. We will discuss that. Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Yes.
We've got about 20 minutes, so
Okay.
maybe open it up to questions.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
Oh, I thought that's what yeah, it's, I thought it was
Uh-huh.
controlled.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we
Uh,
can make
the
it water.
the person. Yeah. The person's asking about having a trench around the drip line of the tree. There is yeah, with mulch, definitely you can do that. There is a method called flood irrigation. You could actually fill that trench up with mulch and actually slowly fill up that trench with water, and then that's an ancient way of actually, very ancient way of how a lot of farming used to, and they probably still do that in the Middle East. And it's called furrow irrigation or flood irrigation, and you can actually fill that trench up with water, and that's good that you have mulch in there. And then once that's filled up, you can let it drain, and then fill it up again. That should be good, usually for about a month or so. Yes. Yeah. What it is I was referring to, like, if you have stone fruit, peaches, nectarines, and apricots. During when it's dormant, when it has no leaves on it, it's a quiet time. You don't need to apply supplemental water during the rain. Our rainy season is usually during that time, and we will get rain. You just got to be hopeful. We will get rain. Rains alone should be enough. But if you have extended period of time when there's absolutely no rain, you may have to supplement water maybe once or twice, but don't water it like on a regular basis. Usually most trees, what they do is they need water usually once or twice a month. And that's about all. Usually about 100 gallons. you, you want to water trees separately. Trees are bigger plants. You want to water. You want to have plants planted that have the same water needs together. You want to have trees grouped together. You want to have drought-tolerant trees grouped together. You want to have shrubs. There are a number of shrubs, getting off topic a little, that actually require very low water, and those can be planted next to, drought-tolerant trees. If you have shrubs that require a little bit more water, just deep water those trees. Supplement those trees of water, and you can still water the lower shrubs the way you do, but so you can have deeper roots is to kind of like in a lawn area. You want to water them. You don't want to water them the same way all the time as you do other, other plants. Yes. The person's asking if you already have established citrus, and it's being used to watering at a regimen of about 2 times a week. Yeah, 10 minutes 2 times a week. You can change your watering habits, but in increments, not all at once. It's too much. But maybe go like an example, like like 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then and then 1 hour. Just don't do it all at once. It's too much of a shock all at once. You gotta do it gradually. That's like with a new tree. When you're planting a new tree, you don't automatically wanna. Oh yeah, it's been in there 1 year, so I water once a month. No, you need to work up to that point of first it's once a week, and then as it becomes more established, then it's every other week, and then maybe once a month. You need to find a happy medium. There's no set way. You just gotta you need to kind of condition the tree to be able to be watered once a month or twice a month. Yes. Oh yeah, this right here, this is a biologic transplant starter. What this does is it provides new beneficial microbes to the soil. Beneficial microbes, they actually can increase drought tolerance. This is for new plants, and basically what it is this there's like a little bag in here, and you like a little tea bag, and what you do is you apply it to the soil where you where you're planting a new tree, and basically what it is basically like for transplanting, place the recommended micromat bags directly into the planting hole, and then like a closed root system. That's like a closed root system would be more like a container, and then usually like if you have 15-gallon plants, a big plant like this, you use 8 bags. There's in this box, I think it contains, it contains probably about 8 to 15 bags. So this right here is good for for one 15-gallon one 15-gallon plant, for new transplants. And last but not least, this right here could reduce watering up to 25%. This is it helps open up the soil. It's like a soil conditioner. You apply it to lawns, gardens, and trees. And what it does is it helps water enter the soil better. It helps the soil flocculate, meaning where it doesn't puddle, and where water seeps into the soil better, making the watering more efficient and your plants more happier. Yes, mix this with the soil. Absolutely. No. It's best to always mix these things and get it activated into the soil. Essentially, it's yeah. Gypsum can be used definitely. In addition, gypsum doesn't last too long. She's asking about gypsum to help loosen clay soil. That could be used. In addition, I would use that with your soil amendments. You know, with this soil amendments. To actually make it a lot better. Yes. Basically, what it is, a drip irrigation or microspray. The kind of emitters that I saw were the kind, they whirl like this, and it's kind of like it's not a bubbler. I call it a microspray because when the nozzle, we'll have them inside the store. But what they'll do, he's asking about, can you describe the micro spray setup? They have more than one emitter per each tree. They have like 5, all the spaced all the way around the trunk, about not right up against the trunk, about 5 feet away, right underneath the canopy, and it sprays water like a fine mist, and they rotate like this. Is that the kind of? Yeah.
I thought you said they were under the mulch, but they are above the mulch.
They're above the mulch. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They are above the mulch. You can have sprayers underneath the mulch. Also, when probing the soil, with this, when you have mulch, take a pitchfork or a rake and move away the mulch, and then poke the soil, because you may be poking the soil and you think you are, but essentially you'll be having a thick layer of mulch about like this, and it's saying it's moist, but the soil is not moist. So that's why you need to also water long enough where the water could go through the mulch into the soil. Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the person's asking about, about weaning the tree, a newly planted tree or a tree that has been acclimated to being watered on a regular basis. And even in an established tree, you need to, it's like, think of it as like your body. We're almost time up. It's about almost 10 minutes or so, but it's like your body. You don't want to, automatically go and say, okay, I'm on a diet right now, and that's it. But you gotta, it's like, think of it as like a workout for the tree. You need to slowly get it where it would, be watered deeply and on a less frequent basis. It'll be a lot better, for the plants, and for the health of the tree. Yes. Look in the phone book, but I recommend probably Trico you know, someone's asking about a company for tree care and tree pruning. I would probably, you know, use like anyone with a certified arborist, International Society of Arborists certification. You know, TreeCo is the first one that comes to my mind. You know, they do have yeah, the necessary you know, expertise in that field. Yes. Yes. A minimum of 2 inches. The deeper the better. You know, 3 or 4 inches would be fine. 5 or 6 inches. Just remember, you gotta water deep enough where water needs to go through the mulch into the soil. And the kind of mulch, it all depends, you know, what you like. You know, I prefer to use like a homogeneous mix of coarse products, thin products, and larger, you know, larger and finer products. It all depends on, you know what you like. Some products will break down faster than others, but it all comes down to actually preference. Wood bark is fine. Yeah, it's fine. Wood chips are fine. You know, some mulches will break down faster than others. And how are we on time? How's everything?
Pretty good. We got about 7 minutes left. I just want to get an idea of how many questions we have left. If you have a question, could you raise your hand so I can get a count? All right, excellent job.
Yeah. Thanks so much for attending. I really appreciate it. And you know, I encourage all of you to actually go out there and be, you know, and actually, you know, I prefer hand water. That's me. You know, and be connected with the garden and you know, be one with the trees. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.